Alright, the guidance guy is back. So I took a little break. Okay, not so little. I was gone for a hot minute there, but we're moving forward with new content, so be sure to be subbed down there with the notifications on so you always are in the loop with things. And be sure to do the YouTube thing, you know what to do. So now that we've gotten all the housekeeping out of the way, let's get into this. What's the connection between Black Widow and behavior modification? I'm the guidance guy, and sit tight because you're about to find out. Yeah, I know I'm late to this party, like strolling in when all the food is gone late. But you know who else is late to this? Marvel, because they should have done this movie, about 10 years ago. Imagine for a moment a trilogy of Black Widow movies featuring the darkest version of the Incredibles throughout the MCU. Imagine enjoying these films and actually having some kind of tension because the main character isn't already dead and all these events didn't already happen. Okay, I'm gonna lay off the salt now. I'm done. But what really got me thinking in Black Widow was all the work that went into making a widow. Yes, it definitely involved a lot of sci-fi magic to get an army of women to blindly follow orders on demand, but even though there's no IRL version of the Red Room, concepts of changing and influencing behavior? Oh yeah, that stuff is used in therapies, schools, the military, it's all over the place. The formal word for it all is behaviorism, a branch of psychology that focuses on the behaviors and motivations of humans and ways to influence it. And this movement goes back over 100 years and has built giants of science such as John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner. And there have been landmark experiments that have defined the field for the decades. Like in the 1890s, Ivan Pavlov did an experiment on dogs that revealed that dogs can be trained to salivate at the sound of a metronome when the metronome was associated with getting food. That was the beginning of what's now called classical conditioning, in which a subject can be trained to have a conditioned response, which in this case was them licking their chops like a cartoon wolf, to a conditioned stimulus, which for Pavlov was the metronome. Another was the Little Albert experiment by John B. Watson, in which he took a 9-month-old baby and essentially conditioned him to be afraid of mice. How? By making a loud noise every time Albert interacted with a white mouse. Over time, Albert began to cry just at the very sight of the little animal. Now, if that experiment sounds shady, it's because it is. There's no way the experiment would be repeated today. Taking a tiny human and training it to be afraid of something that had no fear of beforehand is not cool by today's scientific standards. So science has already shown that someone's behavior can be influenced by someone else through various means. But is that the same thing as mind control? Well, let's take a look at how things are done in Black Widow. In the film, Black Widows are indeed straight up forced to obey orders of their commanding officers and ultimately Dreykov. They're incapable of going rogue and doing their own thing. Shoot, they're not even able to attack Dreykov due to his pheromone lock. But right off the bat, we see some complications. Though we know that behavior can be changed to produce a specific result, getting to that point takes time. It can take weeks or months for a new behavior to become learned, depending on what the specific behavior is. This is probably why most New Year's resolutions don't work. We give up on them too soon. So the instantaneous hypnotizing kind of mind control is just movie magic. But what we do see is a lot of conditioning that went down in the Red Room, as well as with the supernatural mind puppetry. We already spoke about classical conditioning, but there's also operant conditioning. Unlike the classical version, in which the subject is only required to react to an object, sound, or event, in operant conditioning, the person in question is playing a much more active role. When it comes to operant conditioning, the goal is to either remove or add a new behavior through reward or punishment. A reward is exactly what it sounds like, getting something good that you want for completing a task. And punishment can come in the form of either receiving a negative consequence or having a positive consequence withheld. In the case of the Black Widows and their training, the goal was to make them dedicated, focused, and efficient soldiers and espionage artists around the world. That was done through pretty much any means necessary. It's pretty fair to say that the ladies of the Red Room were objects of punishment if they did not meet Dreykov's expectations, which went as far as losing your life if you as much as lost a sparring match against another widow in training. So needless to say, the stakes were high, which is what makes it even more incredible that Natasha was able to get out of that toxic environment, start over, become a hero, and finally find the family she had been looking for her whole life. And perhaps it's that fact of Romanov's life that's the biggest takeaway for us. We've all been in situations we wish we weren't in, whether it's a friendship, living situation, and it doesn't matter if you were at fault or not. We're all going to experience that at some point. And at the end of the day, we're going to have a choice. Do we want to stay in this trash situation, or do we want to break out? Do we want to get out and create a new future, a new opportunity for ourselves? And that's what Natasha did. She got herself out of a seemingly impossible scenario, took the opportunity to restart her life and get what she wanted out of life. And if she can do it, what's our excuse? We're not being mind controlled. We're not being conditioned to somebody else's image. Think about your life. What about it do you want to change? Go ahead and put it in the comments. Let's find out. And from there, make a plan to how you can get there. If you're running into trouble, go ask for help. Don't be afraid to do it. Do whatever it takes to make your future. This is perhaps the most underrated theme of this movie. You are not defined by your circumstances. Fight and take your future back. It's what Black Widow did. What will you do? Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what other characters and franchises you'd like me to discuss next. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when the next video is ready. Until next time.